Hey everybody, this is Dark Guardsman, and we're back with another video. So I recently have just got a dual PC recording streaming setup going, so we're going to continue testing that. So if you notice some audio discrepancies and stuff like that, one point them out in the comment section saying like, hey, the audio is too loud, too quiet, music's too loud, or whatever. This is a new setup, so we're going to have some issues and everything else. So getting that out of the way, I've been working on the sentry gun some more. I know I put a tweet out saying I wouldn't do a lot more work on 1.7 mods. There are a few mods that will be exclusions to this. Armory mod is one of those, and Assembly mod is another mod that will be an exclusion, where those will be two mods that will get work on 1.7, simply because those mods need more work in general before I even think about updating them. So we've got the sentry guns. This is the ICBM Classic Sentry Guns add-on for the Armory mod. It features the old sentry guns from the ICB mod. I have been working on getting dual barrel setups for this. It actually can support more than just two barrels. Any barrel is supportable. Here, when I actually get a chance, I'll be working on the AA gun and getting all four of its barrels are working correctly, but I've got the laser gun running. The colored lasers you are seeing is debug mode. I am checking to make sure that its aim is proper. So when you see the green laser, there actually is a white laser that fires that'll tell me if it's aiming properly. A green laser that'll fire tells me if it's ray tracing properly. The laser gun only does ray trace once. It only applies damage once, but it does do two beam renders for visual. The multi-gun barrel system that's in Armory does support multiple different ways to do barrels. There is a render only mode, so you can set up your system so that way you can have stuff render rather than actually do attacks. So say you have 8 barrels on a sentry gun and you want to fire in groups of 4, but then you only want to do 1 ray trace per group. You can actually fire, attack, have 4 beams render, then switch to the second group and have another 4 beams render as well as another attack going. That's kind of the concept. Right now we've got this working. A lot of mathematics went into getting this to work. A lot of things have to actually be fixed. The Armory gun system, for those who actually don't know too much about it, is actually entirely built on a whole bunch of prefabs and JSON data structures. So when you actually do make a sentry gun, you set up a little bit of data here that goes, okay, what's my sentry gun, IDs, gun, energy usage, etc., etc. You set up all that data, you create guns for it, recipes, renders, ammo, all done via JSON, so you don't have to do a whole bunch of code work for this. You don't have to be the smartest person in the world to do this. It's all just input data to get it all set up and going. All the code, on the other hand, is what I've been actually working on, so I have to do a whole bunch of things like here. This is a recent thing I actually just fixed, was actually getting it to calculate the bolt offset just properly. This actually allows it, when the gun ends up pivoting up and down, that it actually will fire the laser at the front of the gun, rather than being slightly off up or down. Although it's not perfect, you can tell that the lasers are indeed actually firing slightly, but it's close enough that I'm not going to fret about it too much. It's enough that it's an illusion and you won't notice it too much when it comes to that stuff. But there's that been fixed. I had to do a huge overhaul on the actual gun thing. Actually, I wouldn't say huge, minor, of actually getting it to use rotation data instead of rotation and vector. So how we used to do is we would store a pos object, it would be X, Y, and Z, to actually get the vector of the aim. So like if we think of the laser as the aim point, there'd be a vector that would be a value between 0 and 1 of the actual direction. That would be for the X, Y, and Z, it would be 0 and 1. Actually be -1 to 1. That would tell me what direction we're aiming in, and then we would multiply it out and everything else. So we actually switched over to using the rotation object for that, and it's going to be becoming more and more useful in the future, as we'll be able to rotate better and be able to handle rotation much better, although I had to do a whole bunch of tricks and stuff to get it working, as things like, for example, the player gun, which I still have debug mode turned on, but wow, debug mode's broken. But say, for example, this, which just tells me with the debug of the gun how it's working. This was acting up, and of course, due to how the player actually does things, the rotation data from this is not the same as the rotation data from the entity. Anyways, I just wanted to show that that was working. We've got that running and everything else. Another change that I have noted on Twitter, but I haven't shown a lot of videos of this, the sentries do actually rotate properly now. So previous versions was not as noticeable with the laser gun, but they would be pivoting around the base of the turret. So when they would rotate, a great way we would do this would be in paint to kind of explain it real quick before I show it, is that say we had our base here and we had our rotation up here. So we say we had our turret, which was coming off like this. So you would expect it would rotate like this. What was actually happening is our rotation point would be down here, and we would be rotating around this. So that way, if we had like an object, for example, that was rotating like this, instead of rotating around that, it would end up coming down and moving around and everything else, making for a rather unpleasant rotation. That has been fixed now. Was a bit of code to go into that. Luckily, when I was working on Atomic Science, I actually discovered the trick to do it. More of rediscovered, as there's several people that have, one, discovered it beforehand, two, I've discovered it myself repeatedly and I just keep forgetting about it. But it involves translating the object, rotating and then translating it back, which I can actually show this is working for several of the sentry guns. So if we get the AA gun out, get this out, and we are going to need some ammo. So let me get a whole bunch of other things here. There's some more polish that's going to be involved in this. Actually, I want to get these mods running really well. But if we put the cannon sentry down, put some ammo in it. Shift click, by the way, works now too. I don't know if I showed that off. That's something I fixed. But you can see that the rotation is much smoother. It's actually going to be really hard to do. So it still has a little bit of pivoting problems. You see how it's not quite rotating perfectly? I got it close enough that it's not going to be as big of a problem anymore. So when we're actually setting these up, for example, if we set this up a lot higher, which is the only way we're going to really see the pitch in action. And I need some more ammo. So when it actually does go to... Oh, you know, as soon as I said I fixed it, it broke on me. So I had this working, and I'm going to assume the data didn't save properly, but it was actually doing what it was supposed to do. Anyways, we're going to at least, let's check this guy if he's working. I actually have videos showing this stuff actually was working that I can actually go through. So let's get this guy running and actually set him to shoot monsters. He at least works. Yeah, though we're going to need to put him up high just to see the pitch in action. So I'm going to assume the sentry guns, there's some data missing. And of course I need to set this to shoot monsters. So he's actually working now. And this AA gun has the worst rotation problems out of all of them. Because when this model is actually imported, the cannons are already by default pointing 35 degrees up. So they have to be rotated down by 35 degrees and then set up the proper rotation to work. But it actually works now, which is really nice because this was one of the ones that was acted up the most. I actually have another base on my server that the one that's sitting above my base would, like, the rotation would flip out completely on it. But it is nice and smooth. Now if I get the actual animations up on this thing's going to look amazing. Add some audio effects, some recoil. This will be a really good system. Although I'm still not sure how we're going to get the radar dish to spin. Is this supposed to spin on the top of this? Anyways, I'll leave you guys here, and I'll be back with more updates and content as we go.